support of coming from all sources. So it's his recommendation, and I agree with it, and it is good. So Isabong will end by tonight, bukas.
Interior Secretary Eduardo Año is expected to release today the final details of the directive. The president earlier ordered the Interior Department to investigate e-sabong operations, including stories of people pawning possessions just to play the popular betting game. He previously rejected the proposal of senators back in March to suspend e-sabong amid an investigation into the disappearance of more than 30 sabongeros or enthusiasts since April last year. Now, despite the delayed termination, senators welcoming the president's change of mind, Committee on Public Order Chairman Bato de la Rosa believes it is the end of the e-sabong industry unless, he says, the next administration revives it. On April 18, de la Rosa wrapped up Senate hearings on abductions linked to e-sabong and recommended strictly regulating the activity. He also wanted further investigations into Atong Ang, owner of online sabong firm Lucky 8 Star Quest, which operates the arenas where the missing cockfight enthusiasts were last seen. Lucky 8's franchise is pending at the Senate. Senator Grace Poe, chairperson of the Committee on Public Services, which handles the franchise bill, says there is no more time to deliberate on pending franchises. She adds the president's order will allow authorities to focus on seeking justice for the missing persons and their families. With less than 2 months left in the 18th Congress, Senator Cojo Pimentel says the next Congress should study the impact of e-sabong and other gambling activities. Senate President Tito Soto saying revenues from e-sabong cannot compare to the problems it caused and that franchise applications are deemed dead at the Senate. Senator Ping Lacson believes the president did the right thing.
It's about time because the Senate resolution explicitly suggested that be done. Salamat sapagkat gusto rin naman natin makinabang kasi yung talagang legitimate na sabong dahil napakaraming naghahanap buhay sa paligid ng sabungan na nawalan ng trabaho lahat dahil sa isabong. So, tignan natin ang magiging effect.
Paglabas ng memorandum o yung whatever order na lalabas, tingnan natin kung suspend but the term used is end isabong. No, so, that's it. I think the President exercised prudence bago siya nag-act on the matter.
Meanwhile, the Philippine National Police says it will coordinate with the Philippine Amusement and Gaming Corporation, or PAGCOR, on how to inspect and monitor the operations of e-sabong and betting stations. Lucky 8 Star Quest respects President Duterte's decision. The company also vows to fully cooperate with the government. It also promises to continue its corporate and social responsibility efforts, including supporting communities and the 1.8 million Filipinos whose livelihoods, directly or indirectly, depend on the company's continued operations. The firm assures the president its next steps will be according to the law and due process. Lucky 8 also says, and we quote, "We deem it mutually beneficial for the government and our stakeholders if there is clarity, fairness, and lawfulness in the framework for e-sabong." The Commission on Elections is on the final stretch of preparations with only 6 days to go before the Filipino votes. Melissa Lopez walks us through the final check of the testing and sealing of vote counting machines in some precincts.
More poll precincts in the country received vote counting machines, or VCMs, for a final test run days away from the May 9 polls. Here at the San Juan Elementary School, teachers took turns retrieving VCMs from a storage room inside the campus. Each box was carefully opened and each component is checked. In one precinct, poll workers initially scrambled looking for the I buttons, a small device used by the board chairman which opens and closes the machine, but eventually found it inside a slot for thermal paper. Chairman Saidamen Panganungan oversaw the opening of the trial voting at Clustered Precinct 53. The VCM went through a diagnostic test and later on printed an initial report. It's meant to show that no votes are pre-programmed for candidates, from president down to councilor. After that, the precinct was opened for test voters. Poll watchers from political parties as well as media were invited to fill out the 10 testing ballots. We took part in the exercise and the results were accurate based on the receipt churned out by the VCM. The trial also went smoothly at the Quirino High School in Quezon City, although sample voters had to make sure they were feeding the sheets smoothly into the machine, avoiding any folds or crumples.
Yung sa FTS natin, it's tinitest yung accuracy ng ating machines. Nagkakaroon ng diagnostic, tinitingnan kung gumagana ba yung ating yung scanner, gumagana ba yung ating printer, lahat-lahat.
I would consider it flawless, perfect. Nakita natin yung proseso dito na napaka-smooth o walang malfunction or anything.
By end of voting day, the Electoral Board will close the voting process and delete the votes tallied for the day to ensure these won't be included on the May 9 official tally. Other precincts nationwide will carry out the final testing and sealing of machines until Saturday, May 7th, so that the VCMs are ready to go by 6 a.m. on voting day.
This is the final leg of preparations as COMELEC hopes to assure the public that elections will be fair and clean on May 9. Melissa Lopez, CNN Philippines.
It is all systems go for the Senate, which will receive certificates of canvass and election returns for the two highest posts on May 9th. The Senate released photographs of its preparations, including the designated storage areas for ballot boxes containing election documents. These include COCs, or certificates of canvass, and ERs, the election returns from cities and provinces, and overseas absentee voting. Senate Secretary Mayra Villarica says the entire activity will be live streamed on YouTube starting 6 p.m. on Election Day for transparency. Both houses of Congress, sitting as the National Board of Canvassers for President and Vice President, shall proclaim the winning candidates in a joint session. May 9 could mean something else in Eastern Europe, where a brutal war drags on. U.S. and Western officials believe Russian President Vladimir Putin may formally declare war in Ukraine on that day. This will allow the full mobilization of Russia's reserve forces and potentially strengthen support for the invasion. Pope Francis, however, saying Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban told him Putin may end the war on Monday. Putin has insisted on referring to the months-long invasion as a special military operation. May 9, known as Victory Day in Russia, marks the country's defeat of the Nazis in 1945. Coming up, President Duterte has an appeal to his cabinet regarding political endorsements just a few days away from the polls. Plus, Hollywood's biggest stars rock the red carpet for this year's Met Gala, a look at fashion's biggest night out here on Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
RPN DXKP Pagadian. Ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN. Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to the world. Pinaagi sa FB page. Karon, mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas kipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. Ang mas kipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda. Denver, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
Welcome back. Former Defense Secretary Norberto Gonzales and Labor leader Leody de Guzman pushed their plans and platforms forward with just 6 days to go before the Filipino votes. Chrissy Di Matulak has the highlights of the first round of the Commission on Elections and the Kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas Forum.
The first round of the forum started strong, with presidential candidates Norberto Gonzales and Leody de Guzman asked how they could help the country recover from the ongoing crisis. Former Defense Secretary Gonzales was the first to take the stage. He underscores the importance of ramping up job opportunities, especially for those who lost their jobs from the pandemic. He also reminds the public that since COVID-19 is still among us, it's important to continue strengthening our healthcare system.
Gawa tayo ng isang malaking pondo para bigyan ng kapital ang marami nating mga mamamayan na nais maghanap buhay. Dapat tayo ay naghahandang mabuti. Itataas natin ang immune system ng ating mga mamamayan sa pamamagitan ng pagbibigay ng tamang pagkain at sapat na pagkain para sa lahat ng ating mamamayan. Kaya itutulak natin ang ating agricultural sector.
For Gonzales, he says his administration will make business registration easier to encourage people become entrepreneurs. Labor leader Leody de Guzman, on the other hand, vows to change the economic system, which, according to him, only favors big businesses and neglects ordinary laborers. He also emphasizes the need to enhance the capabilities of farmers and manufacturing industries. All these are in line with his advocacy to end contractualization.
Ang unang hakbang natin ay buhusan natin ng pondo ang ating mga magsasaka para lumikha ng pagkain sapat para sa ating mga mamayan. Dapat itigil ang sistemang kontraktualisasyon sa ating bansa, buwagin ang mga manpower agency at direct hiring na ang gawin natin tulad ng dati.
The forum also tackled other significant issues. As a former national security advisor, Gonzales emphasizes the need to prioritize weapons training of our soldiers amid the ongoing war between Russia and Ukraine. He admits that while he is lagging behind surveys, he remains unperturbed and says he will continue to rally for real change in the country. De Guzman also clarifies that he and his running mate Professor Walden Bello are not anti-capitalists.
Hindi kami anti-capitalist per se. Kinaklaro namin na kami masama lang ang loob doon sa mga kartel, sa mga monopolyo, sa mga big business na ginagamit yung kanilang pera at kapangyarihan, koneksyon para magkamal ng yaman.
With the elections just less than a week away, both Gonzales and de Guzman urged the public to make the right decision for the country. They assure their platforms will benefit everyone, especially the ordinary workers. Chrissy Di Matulak, CNN Philippines.
Catch presidential candidate Faisal Mangundato at the COMELEC KBP Forum tomorrow at 10 a.m. and Vice Presidential bet Tito Soto 11 a.m. here on CNN Philippines. On to other candidates, Manila Mayor Isko Moreno says he is unfazed by his lower ranking in the latest Pulsatio survey, where he slid to fourth spot with just 4%, half of what he got in March. Moreno says he does not regret urging Vice President Leni Robredo to withdraw from the race during the controversial Easter Sunday press conference on April 17.
I don't know how far is the truth, but there must be something wrong. Dalawang bagay lang yan. Kung totoo yun o hindi. 4% talaga? Good luck to me.
Robredo returns to Western Visayas and thanks supporters and volunteers in Calibo, Aklan for their efforts. Her fiercest rival, former Senator Bongbong Marcos, also in Western Visayas. Marcos is holding his first meeting de avance in Gimbal in the province of Iloilo. Iloilo 1st District Representative and former Health Secretary Janet Garin is the organizer of the event. Senator Manny Pacquiao is in Mindanao and campaigned in the cities of Iligan and Marawi today. He led the groundbreaking of sites that will host low-cost housing for the poor. Senator Ping Lacson and running mate Tito Soto capping off their campaign with a caravan in Calabarzon. Lacson says the tandem wants to do away with the usual meeting de avance and plans to hold spontaneous dialogues at places such as plazas and terminals. Meanwhile, Lacson and Soto respect the decision of the Iglesia ni Cristo not to endorse them. The INC has yet to formally announce its endorsement.
Any endorsement from a group, particularly yung mga malalaking grupo, siyempre most welcome. Kasi especially kung black voting, tinatawag natin black voting. So talagang it also matters. But it is not the be-all and end-all of the election. Kasi marami rin namang na-endorse na hindi nanalo. Meron din namang hindi na-endorse na nanalo. In my case, all my senatorial runs, I was endorsed. Of course, I won. Ito yung second time, probably, kung hindi ako endorse, ito yung second time na hindi ako endorse na Iglesia.
It's final. President Duterte will not endorse any of the 10 presidential bets for the upcoming polls. During a taped briefing this morning, the chief executive also clarified raising the hand of candidates does not mean he is supporting them. He's the president in his own words.
Wala akong kandidato pagka-presidente ngayon hanggang Disyembre para ano ninyo na wala kami, and even the cabinet. Hindi ko naman sila pinagbabawalan, but I requested the cabinet at the start of yung cabinet meetings natin na sinabi ko, kung maaari lang, kayo mag-remain neutral lang rin.
A faction of the president's party, PDP Laban, has endorsed the Marcos-Duterte tandem. Well, as we count down to the last few days until May 9th, we break down the roles and responsibilities teachers play on Decision Day. The Education Department has suspended classes in all levels until May 13th to give way to election-related activities. AC Nichols tells us teachers are not only champions of education, but also guardians of the polls.
In the process of choosing the country's next leaders, public school teachers are in the front lines. And to them, the people entrust their confidence to help poll officials hold credible elections. The law lets them serve as members of the Electoral Board, essentially overseeing activities in polling precincts. It used to be a requirement for teachers until another law that took effect in 2017 made it voluntary. Each clustered precinct has an electoral board with 3 officers, a chairperson, a poll clerk, and a third member. The electoral board carries out the final testing and sealing of vote counting machines and official ballots and checks against any tampering. On election day, they are at the polling precincts before the break of dawn, setting up vote counting machines and ballot boxes. They verify the voter's identity and cross-check names in the list of registered voters.
Yung mga reports nga po before na may mga patay na nakakaboto. And if it's not vigilant enough, may mga makakalusot po na gano'n.
With the scheduled longer voting hours because of the pandemic, the COMELEC has raised the pay of electoral board members by 1,000 pesos from the last elections, 7,000 pesos for the chairperson, and 6,000 pesos each for the other 2. They will also receive 500 pesos for COVID-19 hazard pay, plus 2,000 pesos travel allowance. Despite the higher compensation, a teachers group says they deserve more.
Hindi po yan sasapat para i-cover yung risk na kakaharapin ng ating mga teachers mula alas 4 ng madaling araw hanggang alas 12 o alauna ng madaling araw the following day.
Over 500,000 teachers will serve as poll officers on May 9. AC Nichols, CNN Philippines.
The Justice Department's Prosecutor General says dropping the remaining charges against Senator Laila de Lima may not be automatic even after the retraction of some key witnesses that previously implicated her in the believed drug trade. Former Bureau of Corrections Chief Rafael Ragos recanted his allegations, saying he was just coerced to testify against the senator.
The real venue is with the courts now. It has to be presented in court. And the prosecutors must be given the chance to cross-examine Ragos. The sole recantation on the part of Ragos will not automatically result to a acquittal. So the court may not even believe this latest affidavit.
Malcontentos said the court usually honors the initial affidavits, quote, because our jurisdiction, our jurisprudence frown at recantation, unquote. The Justice Department is planning to tap the Office of the Ombudsman to act on Ragos's affidavit. Last week, self-confessed drug lord Kerwin Espinosa already retracted his allegations that he had drug dealings with De Lima at the new Bilibid prison. Today, we join all other journalists and media workers in the continuing fight for press freedom. A media watchdog has cited the challenges the press is facing under the current government. The Center for Media Freedom and Responsibility says President Duterte has managed to constrain the media without imposing martial rule or amending the Constitution. It recorded over 250 cases of threats on media workers, while the nation ranked as among the most dangerous countries for journalists. The CMFR calls on the media not to lose sight of its commitment to tell stories to the people.
So media have taken the path of least resistance, simply recording, satisfied with stenography journalism, refusing to let the facts tell the story. One would have to turn to social media to get the stories of what is happening around us. And this is sad. We believe that media freedom is not for journalists to enjoy as their professional privilege or benefit. Media freedom has no meaning unless its exercise benefits the entire society, with every citizen believing in the work of the press as necessary to their well-being and to their empowerment.
May this day remind us journalists to continue standing up against oppression, especially as we approach Election Day. This World Press Freedom Day, we also remember our colleagues who lost their lives on the front lines. Veteran journalist Jose Ping Galang has died. He was 75. News of Galang's death was posted by fellow journalist June Vallecera on his Facebook page on Tuesday. Galang was former editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur magazine and the Manila Times, managing editor of Business World, and a Philippine correspondent for the Financial Times of London. Galang joined CNN Philippines as senior copy editor from 2019 until December last year. He was a valuable and well-respected figure in the newsroom, who was down to earth with a good sense of humor.
RPN DXKP Pagadian, ang inyong Radyo Ronda. RPN Radio Philippines Network. Radio Philippines Network. Live to the world, pinaagi sa FB page, karon mag-download na. Pinaagi sa Google Play o Apple Store, YouTube o Twitter. Alang sa mas kipakuskan ng mga balita, komentaryo, kasayuran o kalingawan. Ang mas kipakuskan ng inyong Radyo Ronda.
Member, kapisanan ng mga broadcaster ng Pilipinas.
You're watching Newsnight on CNN Philippines. One of the biggest events in fashion kicked off today. This year's Met Gala in New York saw stars flaunting looks under the gilded glamour and white tie theme. Actress Blake Lively went trending in this Versace piece that transformed into a gown inspired by the Statue of Liberty. Lively and her husband, Ryan Reynolds, are co-hosts of the gala. And Kim Kardashian brought back a classic to the red carpet, wearing Marilyn Monroe's 1962 dress, which she wore when she sang Happy Birthday to former American President John F. Kennedy. The evening's dress code was inspired by the Gilded Age, or the end of the 19th century, which sparked over-the-top fashion in New York City. Well, speaking of star-studded ensembles, the trailer for Don't Worry Darling, featuring Florence Pugh, Harry Styles, and Chris Pine, is finally out. In the psychological thriller, housewife from the 50s, played by Pugh, grows suspicious of her seemingly perfect community. Take a look.
And I'm not crazy.
Our life together. You could lose this.
I don't trust it. And I don't want to be here anymore.
Actress Olivia Wilde both directed and starred in the film. Don't Worry Darling hits theaters September 21st. And before we go, Election Day is less than a week away. Here are some reminders to be safe and ready when you cast your vote. Keep your mask on and follow physical distancing in the voting center. Bring alcohol for disinfecting. List down who you will vote for to avoid errors. It's not required, but it would be better to bring a government identification card. And last but not least, visit Comlex Voter Precinct Finder to make sure you head to the right place. On May 9, precincts will be open from 6 in the morning to 7 in the evening. And that is it for now. Join me again on Politics as usual at 8 p.m. I'm Pia Ontiveros for Newsnight, where we go above and beyond the headlines.
Thank you for watching New Day here on CNN Philippines. We're 2 weeks away from the elections, and every day here on New Day, we will be speaking to party list groups vying for seats in Congress. Today, we begin with the neophyte Bisaya Gyud, or BG party list. Joining us now is its first nominee, Aleli Aguilar Andanar. Good morning, Aleli. Glad you could join us. First,
good morning, Mai.
Yes, how is the campaign going so far?
It's been a very tough campaign because we've been going around the different barangays, and every day there's a new activity for us.
Well, tell us about your party list and your advocacy. Your party list is one of the party lists backed by none other than President Duterte. Tell us more about Bisaya Gyud. How and when did it start, and what is its main advocacy?
Bisaya Gyud Party List, or BG Party List, started in November 2019. We are a group of individuals whose main aim is to be able to provide assistance and to all our Visayan brothers and sisters. Now, we want to continue to support the programs that the Duterte administration has started, and we also want to continue to be able to provide services to all Visayans so they don't have to go to Metro Manila to seek better opportunities. We want to provide basic goods, which are food, education, centered on food, education, shelter, and security.
Mm-hmm. Okay, you mentioned those are the three major areas of concern that the BG party list is hoping to address if elected. But tell us about the specific services. What are also the changes that you will champion for the sector that you are representing?
Number one, since coming from the pandemic and also Visayas and Mindanao is always stricken by calamities. We want to be able to support the institutionalize the giving of goods, easier access to provide goods to all of the calamity-stricken brothers and sisters in the Visayas and Mindanao. Mas mapapadali po natin ang pagbibigay ng ayuda if we institutionalize po ang pagbibigay ng ayuda, lalo na po pag may kalamidad.
Well, the party list is backed by President Duterte, and you said you will build on the gains of the current administration. So, what specific policies or programs of this administration are you supporting?
We are supporting the Build, Build, Build program of the President because we believe that with the Build, Build, Build program, it will provide jobs. And if we have jobs, we will provide food, and meron pong tahanan at opportunities para sa mga tao.
Well, in previous interviews, your husband, acting presidential spokesperson Martin Andanar, said that iba yung malasakit at pagmamahal mo sa mga kababayan nating Bisaya. Tell us more about this. How did your advocacy start, and a bit of your background, because as you said earlier, this is the first time that you were thrust in the political arena.
Yes. My husband is Bisaya. He's from Surigao, and we have been we started our project in Surigao City, the Sons of Surigao and Books for Surigao, wherein we supported the giving of free books to children in our community. And now that I am also a volunteer in Las Piñas City during the COVID response, we were able to, in the COVID response, I was a volunteer, and we were able to see kung anong pangangailangan ng ating mamamayan, which is really basic goods, pagkain. And during the Typhoon Odette, kami po ang unang grupo na tumulong doon sa Surigao City para mabigyan po ng aid ang ating mga kababayan na kailangan po ng support and pagkain.
And as you said, the advocacy of BG Party List is to provide services that will address major concerns like food, shelter, and education. And thank you so much for joining us this morning, Alili Aguilar Andanar from Bisaya Gyud Party List. Good morning, you're watching New Day, all the news you need and more. We continue our conversation this morning with party list groups vying for seats in Congress. The frontliners, ang Bida Party List, aims to address the concerns of frontliners, especially when it comes to benefits. Joining us now here on New Day is Jake Hoson. He's the first nominee of the party list. Good morning, Jake, and thanks for joining us. First of all, how is the campaign going so far?
Unang-una, humingi muna ako ng isang magandang umaga sa inyong mga tagapakinig at tagapanood. As far as our campaign is concerned, medyo hectic, pero malapit na po yan. Malapit na po ang halalan, kaya double time po kami. So, mamaya, palipad naman po kami ng Davao at ikutin namin ang buong Mindanao. Kasama ko po ang PDP. Laban na kasama si Sec Alcusi, na isa po tayo sa mga party list na sinusuportahan po ng PDP. Kaya malapit na po tayo at nararamdaman na po namin na ang magtatagumpay po dito ay ang mga frontliners.
Okay, 2 weeks na nga lang, election day na, and we all know frontliners are crucial in the fight against COVID-19. And so what do you think are the most urgent needs of frontliners? And if elected, how would you address these?
Alam nyo, before pa po ng sabihin ko lang po kung paano natin naumpisahan tong frontliners para makita po nila yung ginawa po tayo lumahok dito sa halalan na to bilang party list. Lahat po kami dito sa frontliners ay naging biktima po ni COVID. So pare-pareho po kami, tatay ko, nanay ko, malapit na pong montika po silang mamatay. So yung mga kasama ko rin po dito sa party list natin, lahat po sila, buong pamilya, nagka-COVID. Wala po kaming naasahan noong mga panahon na yon. Hindi po naasahan ng mga pera, mga material na bagay. Ang tanging tao lang po na sumagip sa mga buhay ng mahal namin is mga frontliners, mga ambulance driver, mga medical workers. Dahil hindi naman po tayo mabisita ng mga kamag-anak natin. Dahil bawal po. So sila po yung nagduktong sa buhay ng bawat Pilipino. Ito po, yung ginagawa po natin ngayon, payback time lang po to. Nagbabayad lang po kami ng utang na loob sa ginawa nilang pagsagip sa buhay ng ating mga kababayan. So hindi lang po dahil sa pamilya namin, pero pati pamilya ng bawat Pilipino. Sila po yung ating bagong bayani ngayon. Simple lang po yung batas na gusto po namin i-apply o gawin sa Kongreso para maproteksyonan po ang ating mga frontliners. Unang-una po, yung batas na pagka ikaw frontliners, nagkasakit ka, hindi naman pwede po yung nagkasakit ka during the time na nagpapagaling ka, wala ka sweldo. Yung no work, no pay po sa mga actual frontliners, tanggalin po natin yun. Ipapa-abolish po natin yan sa Kongreso. Second, kung pwede pa po, bigyan po natin sila ng insurance, dental, medical, life insurance. Dapat po laging protektado ang ating mga frontliners, lalo na nandun po sila sa harapan at lumalaban sa gera. Dahil po dito sa gera ng pandemya, ang mga frontliners po natin ang ating sundalo. Meron po tayong general, yan po yung mga doktor. Meron po tayong mga ento, yan po yung mga medical workers natin. Sila po yung lumalaban sa gera ng pandemya natin. At dapat po natin sila ng sapat na benepisyo para maproteksyonan din po nila yung sarili nila. Hindi lang po sila dapat namamatay. Dapat po sila nabubuhay para mas marami pa po silang matulungan mga Pilipino na mabuhay din. So, yung at meron pa po tayong batas na gusto natin i-apply sa kanila. Doblehin natin yung hazard pay po nila para po mas lalo po silang ganahan. Tapos kung magbibigay allowance or pay, dapat po gawin na natin tax-free yung allowance na ibibigay po natin sa kanila. Dahil hindi po sapat yung ibibigay natin pera bilang kabayaran sa kanilang ginagawang pagtulong o pagsagip sa bawat buhay ng mga Pilipino. Hindi po sapat yan. Kami po, magiging boses lang po nila kami. Gagawa po kami ng mga batas na magbibigay proteksyon dito sa ating mga frontliners.
Nako, Sir Jake, napaka-importante ng mga sinabi mo. I'm sure yun yung mga gustong marinig nung mga frontliners. Kasi nga po, nakakagulat. Sila na nga po yung frontliners. Sila pa yung mga walang standard benefits. Ano po? So, Sir Jake, you were a long-time special assistant to Senator Manny Pacquiao and now presidential candidate Manny Pacquiao. So, especially noong boxing fights niya abroad, ano, kaya naman aside from coming to the aid of frontliners, ang sabi niyo po, susuportahan niyo ang Filipino athletes whom you also consider as frontliners. Tell us more about this.
Tama po kayo dyan. Dahil ang atleta po, kung mapapansin niyo po, ang dami pong lumahok. Unang-una yung Olympics po natin. Ang dami pong lumahok sa ating sports during the time na po tayong pandemya. Sinakripisyo rin po nila yung kanilang mga buhay, lumabas po sila sa ating bansa para magbigay ng karangalan. So ako, nakikita ko po ang mga atleta po natin, napakahalagang ng mga taong yan bilang isa sa mga pinaka-importanting frontliners dahil sila ay nagbibigay ng lakas ng loob sa bawat Pilipino na kahit ano yung hinaharap natin dito sa ating bansa, mayroong mga Pilipinong nakikipaglaban at nagbibigay karangalan sa ating bansang mahal na Pilipinas. Kaya kasama po sila sa pinaglalaban po natin. Kasama po sila sa frontliners. Hindi lang po mga medical workers, hindi lang po mga security guard o barangay captain, kagawad, mga head-on, pati po atleta, including beauty queen. Kasama po sila doon. Nagbibigay po sila ng karangalan sa ating bansa. Kasama po sila lahat sa ipaglalaban natin.
Ako, marami na palang sakop ang inyong frontliners ang bida party list. Maraming salamat po, Sir Jake Hoson.
Best motor